to Talking Junk. Talking Junk. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Welcome to Taxi Cab Confessions. I'm your chauffeur for tonight, Jason Melendez. No, I'm only fucking with you. Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every week with another great guest for that ass. Tonight is no different. Maybe a little different. We usually go live on Valentine's Day with a whole extravaganza. I'll have a couple of guests for you on Talking Junk, and then we'll have a whole big ass thing on the break room. Tonight, we're not going to have a break room. I'll scoop you in on that at the end of the show. But tonight, the guest is right up the alley for Valentine's Day. It worked out perfect. He hit me up one day. I had to get him on here, because you cannot tell me that you have a story that's going to make me cringe and not make me want to have you on the show. He might have a story that might make me cringe, because today we have a former producer and director for Brazzers.com. He's here to promote his new book, and you damn sure better click on the link when I show it to you, because the trailer to this book looks bananas. The book is called Filthy: The Rise and Pending Death of Vic Lagina. And without further ado, let's bring him on. The man, the myth, the legend, Vic Lagina. How you doing, Vic?
Hey, happy Valentine's Day to you. How are you?
Happy Valentine's Day to you too. I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great. I watched my Eagles in their Super Bowl parade earlier today, and now I'm going to take my beautiful girlfriend to dinner for Valentine's Day. So truly blessed is what you could say.
Okay, sounds like a great night.
Yeah. So you have questions, huh?
I have a lot of questions. Now, what makes you think I'm gonna cringe from some of your stories?
Well, I don't know. See, when you reach out to people, you just don't know what their backgrounds are, and some are a little iffy. I don't get that sense from you at all. I think we're gonna be right at home, peas and carrots.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why people stray to me when they hear the title of the show is called Talking Junk.
Yeah,
we talk a lot of shit and we like it here.
Nice. Well, good.
Now, VicLagina.com. I am on a mobile device today. I don't have my laptop, so I won't be able to visually give you the website. Not for lack of trying. I was trying for like 10 minutes before the show. But I will post a clip of it on the website. On the Instagram page right after the show. Until then, take your asses to VicLagina.com and check that shit out. It is a phenomenal website. The cover of his book is amazing. Now, Vic Lagina, when was he born?
He was born in April of 2002, which was my first day of shooting porn ever. My background is all production. I have 6 years of higher education in production, which is about 6 too many, really what you need. But my story was like your typical go to Hollywood, crash and burn, get into a lot of debt. And I answered an ad on adultstaffing.com. There was a kid who, I say kid, but he was probably like 18 or 19. I think he worked for FedEx, and he wanted to shoot his porn movie. And I bullshitted him and told him I could do it, and he paid me $500. And that first day pretty much defined the rest of my career. I think really it was kind of a gross, seedy day, especially when I started smelling crack in the air. And I'm not talking butt crack. I'm talking like actual cocaine, crack cocaine. And someone was smoking it, and I was like, wow, this is really seedy. So my thought was,
I
well,
grew up in the Bronx, man. I'm familiar with the smell.
yeah, it's like an electrical socket basically. And
Pretty much.
I decided, if I'm going to run this thing like a business, there will be no more crack on my set. So that defined everything else.
I'm pretty sure you're not the first porn director to have crack on his set, and there's no pun intended there.
Right. Yeah. Well, there was plenty of crack after that, just butt crack, vaginal crack, I guess you could say. But yeah, like after I crashed and burned in LA, I went to Florida, where, I don't know what they put in the water in Florida, but there seems to be a lot of females who are really willing to engage in sex on camera. So I knew how to find the leads to be a content producer, and I grew my business, and eventually I met the young lads who would start Brazzers, and the rest is history.
So how would you get the clientele? It's like, would you put a CD ad out on Craigslist and just hope
No. There was a website called gofuckyourself.com. And when I was like scouring it daily, while my girlfriend at the time, she was the reason why I guess you could say I was partially in debt, but we'll get into that maybe later. But she wasn't doing anything, and I was working 2 jobs, and I would go on this website to look for leads for people who need content producers. Yeah, it's still there. Look at that. Yeah. And what I would do is, because I knew how to do all this stuff, I would pretty much underbid most people, and I would give more services like editing and encoding. And the thing that was crazy was, apparently in that industry, people would take someone's money and not give anything in return. So I don't know anything about that. I'm like a stand-up guy that's very transparent. So I was like, yeah, here's your content. And it was good content. And word traveled, and I would get more clients. And after a while, after the girlfriend left, I was out of debt in about 10 months. And I had this fledgling business. And so the Brazzers guys at that point were shooting a lot of like tit fuck scenes and, really like low rent shit. They started doing like things like Baby Got Boobs and Mommy Got Boobs. But they said, listen, the talent in Florida, very amateurish. We need you to start dialing it into LA. And I didn't want to go to LA, so I set up shop in Vegas. And they told me if I go to the West Coast and I get that professional talent from LA, they will keep me very busy. And they weren't lying, and they did. And I was busy from the day I showed up to Vegas until COVID hit. I mean, it was insane.
Now, did you ever get busy?
You mean with, the ladies? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did try to date outside of the industry. However,
I wasn't talking about dating. Did you ever produce and direct yourself into your own little?
Oh, no. I was more of I'm running the camera. I'm setting everything up. I hire male talent. Back then we were shooting like $200 a scene guys. And aside from Jordan Ash, I don't know if you're familiar, he's no longer with us. He died about 4 or 5 years ago, but he was one of the guys in Florida that I would hire for $200, and that boy could deliver. But for the most part, yeah, you get what you pay for $200 a scene.
A total fuck.
Little dicks that don't work all the time. That's basically what you get.
Now, are there really fluffers on set that keep dicks hard?
I had an interview last week, and someone asked me that same question, and not on my sets. No, once Brazzers started blowing up, and they said, Vic, it wasn't, this is what we can give you. They were asking me, what do you need? My first response was, we need better dicks. And so we had budgets. We had budgets for better dicks. And, that's when, from there, I wouldn't say never, but waiting for wood no longer was a thing, because they were always ready, strong like bull, ready to go.
Right. No honey packs behind the scenes?
No. I mean, the fluffer thing might be true. And I know we did it when we did like a crazy live show that I detail in the epilogue of my book. But that was more like a competition. So we had like 3 layers of it. And in the first layer, we had fluffers. And if they got hard, they moved on to the next girl. And then if they got through that, they moved on to the final stage. But overall, no, we didn't have fluffers, just consummate professionals.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. So if there's no fluffers, right?
Right. Yep.
The dude obviously has to perform.
Yes.
Do you take? Is it like a regular movie? Do you like cut? We got to do that again.
Only time you're really doing a lot of cutting is when you're doing that ridiculous intro that no one watches, that they fast forward to get to the reason why they're there. And if you hire the right guy, I mean, you take pictures of everything, and that's kind of like the choreography of the entire scene. But when it comes to sex, I always told them, cut if you have to, but if you can just keep going and you're both happy and you're both comfortable, I will follow you with the camera. Like, you don't have to worry about that. And some of the guys, they'd be like, cut, because, you can tell when someone is struggling and they've got what we call suspect wood, which is like half chub. And, like the seasoned connoisseur of porn would be like, that's suspect wood. And we'd be like, all right, let's stop and let's take a break. Most dudes, if they were having problems with that, would know to go take a Cialis or a Viagra, which I never provided because I'm not a pharmacist, and I didn't want some dude to have some adverse reaction to a Cialis and then I'm on the hook, right, legally for that. So
it's not Vince McMahon, it's Vic Lagina. So.
Right. So what would happen is they, if the Viagra wasn't working, we would just have, the word was patience. We will wait. We will wait until this gets done, but we will get the job done. And we always did. If Viagra stopped working, like let's say you're like a 5-year veteran and you're working all the time and, it just becomes routine. The next level up is something called Caverject, which is an injection that they put in their dick that gives them like a boner for like 2 to 3 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And those dudes
inject it in your dick.
Yeah. I think it's more like I don't know if you ever had like a blood test on your fingertip. It's like a quick snap and you bleed. I think that's kind of the same thing. It's just a quick snap and then,
Fuck that. That's my dick. There's nothing quick about it.
Listen, I didn't do it either, but I think if you're a dude that's like got like, 1,000 scenes under their belt, it becomes routine after a while. So that was the next measure. And then
I'm sure there's guys that have done 1,000 scenes in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Still don't need that shit.
Maybe the younger guys, I would say maybe that could be the case. But yeah, eventually they need something. And then eventually Caverject stops working. So what do you do then? You do the penile implant, the penis pump. Yeah, there was guys who had that as well. And from what I was told is there's a button in the grundle area that they push to inflate it like a balloon. And yeah, and when it comes to deflating, I think it's like a press and hold situation. So it deflates.
So it's a go gadget dick.
Kind of, yeah. And those are the dudes that are like, pushing 40, that have been in the business for like 20 years and nothing's working anymore. So yeah, they go for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know. I've heard of penis implants, but I didn't know that that's how they work. And it's bananas. Yeah.
No, I was tipped off to the mechanics of the operation when a girl was down below and she told me after, she's like, yeah, I could see he was pushing something and I heard like a psh, psh, psh noise, but he was like coughing, like to cover it, but that's how I kind of knew that's how it worked. But there was one dude who was very open about it and, we give demonstrations on how this operated.
Hold on a second, girl. I gotta inflict my dick real quick.
Yeah.
How the fuck? That's insane.
Yeah.
He got the Reebok pump of dicks.
Yeah. Well, if you have to look at it this way, when you're getting to that age and it's not doing it for you anymore. Like, you can't, what else can you do with your life, really?
I'm pushing 40, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if you're a male performer, like, and this is how you make money.
I'm a performer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can recommend a doctor to you, I think.
Now I'm good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Go gadget dick over here.
Perfect. No caverject. That's good. That's good to know.
No caverjack. None of that.
Yeah. So what else can I inform you of? I mean, I'm a wealth of knowledge here about the porn industry. So you got me. Let's go.
Before we dig any deeper into the porn industry, your book is just basically detailing your whole stint in the porn industry.
Yeah. So when everything was coming to an end, gratefully, to be honest with you, because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to survive that much longer. And that's not really a joke. I mean, the third ownership of Brazzers, Mind Geek is what they were called, who owned Pornhub and everything. They sucked to work for. The previous iterations, they were good, but Mind Geek, they just sucked all the joy out of the job. And literally towards the end, I just felt like either a nervous breakdown was coming or an overdose was coming, because, there's certain coping mechanisms we have to try to stay sane, and it's not sustainable. So when it all ended in 2020, and, I was hanging on a little bit more and helping girls shoot their OnlyFans, which was another thing altogether. It was over. I had bought my second studio and I had sold it, and I made a good amount of money and I saved money, and it was like, okay, what now? And I had started writing this thing in 2015, because at that point I was 12 years into the industry and details were starting to fade. They were becoming a little murky. So I felt if I don't write it now, it's just going to get lost. So I would write. And then every time we would have to shut down, whether there was an HIV outbreak or whatever, I would add to it. And then COVID hit and I was like, okay, we're going to be off from work for a couple of months. I'm going to add to it. But it just kept going and it kept going and it kept going. And then the business changed forever, which, OnlyFans blew up. And the studios no longer had the power and the money that they did. So me and the people at Mind Geek had a contentious divorce, I would say. And when everything was all said and done and they didn't put me under an NDA for whatever reason, I was like, okay, what do we do now? So I've got money, I've got time. Let's release this book and let's make it a salacious tell-all where you're not pulling any punches. You're really getting the details out, because I didn't want this book to be castrated. I wanted to basically smack people in the face with a 2x4 and let them know that the porn industry is not all beautiful and glamorous as you may think it is. So I wanted it to be real and I wanted it to be gritty, and I feel I accomplished it.
I mean, first of all, if anybody that thinks the porn industry is fucking all fucking butterflies and rainbows is a dickhead.
Yeah. I use the term blowjobs and rainbows, but butterflies and rainbows is a good one as well. But it isn't. And, it really hit home when I was talking about the people that died. I think there's like 8 in memoriams in the book, and that's not even all of them. These are just the ones that I knew. And once I realized the pain that they were in, that's why I realized, that's why you were medicating so much, because the dark energy around you was totally affecting my psyche. And I needed to numb myself in order to continue on with the day. Even though everyone who was sat on the other end of the desk for me, they were there on their own accord. But that's not to say that the baggage and the darkness that they brought in didn't affect me, because it did.
Right. It's all energy based, man. And anything that you surround yourself with is always going to take a toll on you.
Yeah. I mean, even with me being out in Vegas, away from the valley, and being in my bubble of bliss and in the house that I love so much, you do try not to bring it home every day, but some of it does stick with you. So you drink more and you do a little more cocaine. And nowadays you can't really do that unless you've got like several layers of testing mechanisms to make sure that you're not huffing a bunch of fentanyl that'll kill you.
Right.
So that's why I say I'm glad it ended when it did. I thought maybe I have a couple more years in the tank, but when I realized and I was waking up every day happy, and I no longer had to deal with the bullshit, which was from top to bottom, from the company to my crew to the performers. Every day I woke up, I was like, I'm happy to be here. Let's make this a great day. And it's been that way ever since it's ended.
Good. I'm glad. And just to switch gears for just 1 second, you mentioned drinks.
Mm-hmm.
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We have to take a second and have a word from our sponsors.
Okay.
Subscribe for more videos.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Me and my team, whenever we link up, they're gonna be drink up. We still gonna relax and have few glasses when there's things to think about. Like I'm nice with the boss when I tend to the bars and I'm not talking drink ups. So tell the bartender that's tending the bar to please pass me a big cup up. And tell that waitress is waiting on us to put a little ice in it. Now watch the ice become weightless like the spaceships that I be sitting in. No wait and listen, no they're waiting for that tropical twist that'll take your taste buds. Now taste some. Yo, I insist it's the drizzle.
Go to thedizzlebrand.com right now and get you a bottle of this mango cognac tequila blend. Hints of citrus. It is the proverbial aphrodisiac of the liquor world. You give this to any male, female, that Cialis, Viagra, button you have in your groin, all of that shit goes out the window. You take a few shots of this Dizzle, and it'll have you ready and roaring to go. Vic Lagina will be producing and directing the Oscar winner of the year for the porn category. If you just drink a little bit of Dizzle.
I'm going to have to try some Dizzle.
It's the best, man.
Yeah. All right.
And you can get it out there.
Yeah. It's in Total Wine. I can go up there and get some Dizzle.
Yes, you can.
All right. I will look for some Dizzle next time I'm up there.
All right. Just let me know how it tastes.
I will. You got it.
Now, we were talking a little bit about the porn industry, and you mentioned OnlyFans and the evolution of porn. Now we've seen, we've seen porn go from the little 25-cent viewfinders to videotapes to DVDs, and then the inception of the internet. Porn took its biggest evolution ever, and it soared all across the world. The pandemic shut most of that down, and a lot of people, including strippers, went to OnlyFans. Can you say definitively that OnlyFans is the next evolution of the porn industry?
The next one, no. I believe that's more AI, but that's what's coming when it gets better. But for right now, yes, OnlyFans. And I guess it really comes down to a matter of taste. Like, what does the consumer want in their pornography? Do they want to have the behind-the-scenes look at their favorite performer? What does their bathroom look like? What do they eat? What do they drink? What do they do? That's why OnlyFans took off. For a guy like me, who's more polished, who has the skills to produce high-quality pornography, that's why I was out of a job, basically, because all the money started going to the performers. And the studios like Brazzers didn't have enough to pay a guy like me. So they've got more like mid-level producers now. Most of the money for the top stars that they still have goes to them. It goes to the stars. That's why you've got Angela White and Alexis Fox. They're all on Brazzers, but they're making most of the money. So they couldn't afford a dude like me. When I was shooting for the OnlyFans side of things, I was trying to tell the girls, hey, I can get you that Brazzers quality for your OnlyFans. And the response was, yeah, but I don't know if my fans really want that. They want more of that amateurish behind the scenes. And I'm like, okay, fuck me then. And so that was it. I was just like, okay, I guess it's time to be done with this shit. Although I'll tell you, the shooting for performers, it was a pleasure because the days were quick. Because performers, like when they would show up on my set, they knew they were going to be there for 8 hours at least because they got to do hair, makeup, all of this stuff. And even though I tried to get them out of there quick, when you're shooting for OnlyFans, a couple hours, they start getting a little cranky. Okay, we're done. And I'm like, cool, we're done. And that was it. And you didn't really have to worry too much about it being such high quality, But where are we going now? AI, it's coming. And I've been saying this to people who ask me, there's going to be two types of people. There's going to be the organics who want to see real people have sex. And there's going to be the people who are the digitals that are okay with a digital girlfriend or a digital creation. I did another interview a while back, and it was told to me that for those who didn't know they were talking to an AI creation, they were pissed. But for those who knew it ahead of time, we're okay with it. So I don't know if you watch movies, but you remember Blade Runner, the sequel?
Yeah.
Okay. Ana de Armas, digital girlfriend. That's where it's headed. We're, maybe a decade or so away, but that is what I think is going to happen, especially if people go on tube sites and they put in their searches. The tube sites eventually will be creating a porn star or a girlfriend based on their search criteria, and that is where it's going to go.
I mean, there's already some stuff on there like the tentacle fuckings and all of that shit. That's all AI based.
Yep.
But I see what you're saying. But I'm a little synonymous with throwing pitches to some of my guests that seem to have maybe skipped a step or not realized something they could have done. Have you ever thought of maybe your own OnlyFans channel? Not saying you on there, but when reality TV started kicking off, everybody had their houses, their baddies, that whatever show Blueface fucking had. You ever thought of having the Lagina house?
Well, that sounds like a cam house of sorts. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's happens, and they do exist. There was a brief moment where I was flirting with the idea of doing a cam studio, and it sounded like you needed to keep those rooms occupied 24 hours a day with high security, and you had to bring in, keep those rooms filled with girls that were making enough money to justify being in it, as opposed to, let's say, being up the strip and, working at Rhino or something, So
figures just weren't adding up.
No, it seemed like it was already a headache. It was already a headache getting a lot of girls to show up, period. Even though showing up for me when they knew what kind of day they were going to have, which was going to be a smooth day, because all I wanted to do was get home to my dogs, and I wasn't going to fuck about, and I wasn't going to be sitting there, staying on there because I want to be around porn chicks, Even then, getting them to board a plane or to show up on set sometimes was a challenge, And I think that really states what kind of people gravitated towards porn. You did have your professionals, but you had so many fuck-ups. And the fuck-ups seemed to be the more popular ones, and I would have to deal with them. I would have to manage those train wrecks quite frequently, actually. And it sucked at times.
Probably all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I worked with a lot of fuck-ups in my day.
Yeah, and I mean, look, fuck-ups transcend any business, really. But it seems, in porn, when you have a fuck up that is maybe addicted to a substance, you're dealing with compliance issues, really. And you're trying to figure out what exactly, is it apparent that they might be inebriated, And that really became the problem.
Right.
So.
Right. You don't want Jeff Hardy in the porn world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we were under some very rigid demands because the credit card companies mandated it. When you're dealing with pay sites, there were rigid compliance rules that we had to adhere to, which was interesting because Pornhub got into a lot of a lot of trouble recently, the last several years. And they were owned by the company that owned Brazzers, and they didn't have those rigid compliance laws. And a lot of porn that shouldn't have been up there was up there, proliferating on Pornhub, which is why they are in so much trouble these days.
What kind of stuff that shouldn't be up there?
Revenge porn, abuse, underage. I mean, think of the darkest, nastiest, raw, most evil shit, and it was on Pornhub. And there's a whole book that I read and an author that I talked to. This is the book. It's called Takedown. And it really talks about everything that went down in 2020. After I left the company, there was a expose in the New York Times in December of 2020 called the Trafficking Victims of Pornhub. And once that happened, then Visa, MasterCard were forced to pull their transactions from Pornhub. And then they had to purge 90% of their content, which was unverified. For me, I had to have 2 forms of ID. We recorded the release, the signing of the release. We had to do all that. But to upload on Pornhub for literally over a decade, you didn't have to do any of that. So let's say you're a piece of shit individual that's shooting some really nefarious porn. You can just upload it, and they would have a few moderators looking at literally millions of pieces of content, trying to see if people were underage or not. So it was kind of a broken system, and they were monetizing it for a very long time. So to be honest with you, I'm glad the relationship ended when it did, because I don't know if I would have been able, well, I know I wouldn't have been able to work for the company afterwards, knowing what they were doing all of that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was a bummer, but eye-opening, and changes were made. So
now this would be the portion of the show where I ask you if you had what was your worst experience, the craziest story, and things of that sort. But I think probably this thing that you just mentioned with Pornhub would probably be one of your worst experiences.
Well, yeah, I would say that was the worst. Unfortunately, all of that came to light after I was gone. But, usually when you're shooting, especially live orgies of the anal nature, things don't go always smoothly. So when you're dealing with liquid poo and that sort of thing, that could really spotlight how gross porn could be at times.
How many times have you seen somebody frosted?
Quite frequently. We call it the chili dog. When you're shooting the live orgies, see, here was the thing. These girls knew to trust us and my crew, so we would basically, I would instruct my cameramen that when you first go in, don't show the penetration right away. Keep an eye down below while you're shooting the face, because we don't want to make anyone look bad. If they're having a chili dog moment, we don't want to embarrass them live on the internet, But there was one performer that I'm not going to mention by name, but very popular A-list starlet, who before the orgy, she tried to tell us because she was a vegan, she didn't need to adhere to the strict fasting regimens that most performers who are doing anal did. And she's doing this while she's sipping a large coffee. Now, as you know, coffee is not what you want to drink before an anal shoot. So Jordan Nash, who I mentioned earlier, rest in peace, it was reverse cowgirl anal, and there was liquid poo piling up on his torso. So basically, because he had a psyche made of steel, he got up, he went to the baby wipe station that was offset, cleansed himself, went back into battle because he was a dedicated porn soldier.
That is a fucking true professional right there.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't make them like they used to. That's for sure.
I'm telling you, I probably would have threw up on that bitch's back.
Yeah. I mean, and I wasn't even in the room because I was in the control room directing. But can you imagine the smell of that?
I would rather not.
Yeah. And then there's other things too, like when someone doesn't realize their hygiene is way off. And I'm talking of the vagina. Now, if you're a performer, a female performer, and this is your trade, wouldn't you make sure your vagina is in tip top before you start working?
I mean, you should. That's your whole fucking. That's your whole livelihood right there.
Right. Instead, that girl is the one known as the one with the stinky, toxic vagina, which is not something anyone wants at all.
I mean, you could. I'm pretty sure somebody would watch a Toxic Avenger fucking.
Yeah, well, see, when you walk into your sound stage, which is very spacious, and all your huffing is foul vagina, you're like, damn, I'm earning my money today. Yeah.
I get it. Everybody wants macaroni and cheese until you're playing in a fucking dirty ass puddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like a top star that has a huge millions of fans, and yeah.
What do I have to do for you to say her name?
I won't, but we could talk. We could talk privately, one-on-one, and I will tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a deal.
Yeah.
It's a deal. This will be the part of the show where I give you the stage to let anybody know where they can find you, where they can get your book, what your message is, maybe to the next generation of porn stars. And at the end of your spiel, please let them know. Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.
So if you go to viclagina.com, you get to see a trailer for the book that I shot right before I sold my studio. And it stars a guy named James Duval, who has been in Donnie Darko, The Doom Generation. And there's a lot of performers in there, Jennifer White, London Rose, Spencer Bradley. You see a lot of porn star boobies. So go to viclagina.com just so you can see that. And if you're interested in knowing and learning about the porn industry, please pick up Filthy. This was 8.5 years of my life that I dedicated to make sure it was a good product. The audiobook, I'd say if reading is not your thing or if you don't have time for it, go to Spotify or go to Apple Books. I recorded the audiobook for 40 days and edited over 50. And it's kind of like an acid trip. You know, I have a film school background, and this was my time to put my skills to work to create something special to people who want to know about the porn industry. And this book is not just for the porn industry or people who are fans of porn. It's for people who are curious about it. But it's also, if you want to be a performer, there are 9 lessons of Vic Lagina's School of Porn, where we talk about everything. Is it squirt or pee? How do you prep for anal? What do you do when she's on her period? This is the rules and the lessons that I could give you in order to be a more effective porn star. And it can also teach you and coach you to not flame out like a lot of performers may do over their career. So it could save a life, or it could keep you from the porn industry because it's a pretty crazy porn industry. It's a pretty crazy industry. That's about all I have to say. Thank you for tuning into this. And I really hope that you pick up the book. And if you enjoy it, please hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. I am at Vic Lagina. I would love to hear from you. So thank you for listening to the Talking Junk.
Thanks a lot, Vic. Thanks a lot. Those lessons, are they on your website? You said those.
No, they're in the book. They're in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. The one I'm most passionate about is, I think, lesson 6, hygiene, because it really does explain to people that your vagina should not smell like a tuna factory and what to do if it starts to, because there are remedies available and there are things you can do in order for that not to happen. But yeah, there's a lot there. I wanted to be sure that I covered everything that I had to say in this book, because I was under the impression that I might not survive and live very long. So if I didn't, this was going to be my legacy of sorts. And I don't really leave any stones unturned, but there is a part 2 in the works because I'm still here.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see it. I gotta get my hands on one of those books, maybe a signed copy.
I'll be happy to give you one. Yes.
Sounds amazing. I'll send you my info. I have so many more questions, and I know my guys on the next show that we usually have on Fridays called the Break Room are going to have probably just as many, if not more, questions. I know my wife is sitting here and she is going off her rocker right now. So we definitely have to have you on the Break Room. I hope we can set something up in the future. I thank you again for coming on.
Of course. Listen, just hit me up and I will be there whenever you need me.
That sounds amazing. Let me close this out and I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
There you have it. An amazing guest. Crazy ass stories. Literally. For your Valentine's Day. Take that and run with it for today, because I know no matter where you're going right now, to the restaurant, to the club, back home from the hotel after fucking so you can check on your kids, wherever you're coming from or you're going to, this episode is going to get you there in the best, most entertaining fashion ever, just like we do every week here on Talking Junk. Next week is no different. I think next week we'll have 2 guests on for you, but normally this is where I segue into the Break Room. The Break Room will not be coming on tonight, and on the magazine cover for tonight's promo, you see something on the bottom that says the fate of the Break Room. We are not going to be canceled because we love it. This is something that we love to do, which is why we have had so many shows on this YouTube page, this Talking Junk network, because this is something that we love to do, to talk to you, to bring you information, to make you laugh, to make you cry, to make you throw up sometimes. The Break Room will be rerouting itself to once a month, and hopefully we can all get a day where our schedules match up. Because let's face it, when you have 5-6 guys coming on a podcast to talk shit, not all the time are their schedules going to add up. So once we can lock down a day where it makes sense for all of us, we'll come back on. But until then, Talking Junk Network is doing a casting call. And hopefully we can get some of you guys to send some submissions in. And we are looking to start a weekly wrestling podcast right after Talking Junk called The Weekly Roll Up. The Weekly Roll Up, The Weekly Roll Up. Just like, the roll up pin or, the scroll up. But look out for that. That's going to come very, very soon. Even if I have to sit here and talk shit about wrestling to you by myself, that will be coming very, 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 very soon. The logo's already done. The video is done. We are looking to lock down a vintage wrestling sounding theme song, and we will be coming to you live every week to talk shit about the whole industry. But until then, tune in every fucking week to Talking Junk, and every fucking month, hopefully, keep your fingers crossed, for the Break Room, because this is something that is going to be true for years to come. We ain't going nowhere. You gonna have to kill me before I get off of here. And with that being said,
Thank you for tuning in to Talking Junk.